Well, it's here at last for Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's PMDG's DC6. And we're going to take it for a spin today at Burning Blue Design's new airport, White Waltham. Welcome to the SimHanger channel. My name's Mark. I've been in flight sim for many years, going right back to the Sublogic days. And whilst there are many very good products out there, there's few that I can class as exceptional. Looking back and ignoring the jets, some of my favourites have been PMDG's Jetstream JS41 for FSX was outstanding, as was A2A's Constellation in Prepared, and of course the majestic Dash 8 Q400, my favourite in VR. In X-Plane, it's the leading-edge simulation Saab 340 and the amazing Beaver from Thrandra Designs. And this may surprise you, Asobo's Top Rudder 103 Solo for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I've chosen these products because they were exciting. They were great in VR. And whilst flying these birds, I was able to escape into my flight sim world. Now, I'm not saying that the DC6 falls into this category because I haven't spent enough hours in it, but it certainly seems to have the pedigree and could be a very good candidate. What are your favourites? Let me know in the comments below. White Waltham Airport is about 25 miles from the centre of London and just to the west of Heathrow in the UK. It has 3 fairly long grass runways and is one of the largest GA airports in Europe. Now you see this guy up ahead with the 2 Dobermans? Well, his name is Martin. He's known online as Maverick. No, I'm deadly serious. And he's heavily involved in the Lincolnshire Doberman Rescue Club. They're looking for donations and any assistance. I'll leave links and contact details in the notes below this video if you'd like to help. This is not Burning Blue Design's first airport. They did Lyd, I did a video on that, again links in the notes below, as well as Farnborough and Headcorn. As you can see, this is the main GA area for the airport, but the aircraft we're interested in is parked on the other side. Let's head over there. Burning Blue Designs is a small development team, just 1 or 2 people. But in a relatively short period of time they've garnered a reputation for attention to detail and realism. The scenery package also includes some of the surrounds, including housing and a nearby train station. White Waltham Airport, like most airports in the UK, have a pre-Second World War history and a link to the RAF at some time or another. And there's our DC6. The crew are currently prepping it for departure. And I have to say, she's a bit of a looker. And it's immediately evident that PMDG have paid some considerable time and attention to the PBR and texturing on the external model of this aircraft. The slight rippling due to the ribbing and each and every rivet just adds to the level of immersion and believability. With this download you get 2 different DC6s. This is the A, and that's cargo, and the B, well, that's passenger. The DC6B obviously doesn't have the large cargo doors. The inside of the passenger cabin is modelled. It's not high resolution, but I'm okay with that. I'm more interested in having an acceptable frame rate overall when flying this bird. The developer has included numerous animations, and we'll be having a look at some of those a little later on. And for both the DC6A and B variants you get a choice of different liveries, most of them based on real-world owners. The DC6 is a slightly bigger bird than what you may first imagine it to be, but in terms of the externals, PMDG, well, they've met my expectations. Well, it's time to get down to business, so let's take a look at the cockpit, and it's impressive by any measure. And as far as I'm aware, every switch and dial operates, including all the breaker switches as well. Impressive attention to detail with 3D gauges. But don't be intimidated by all the dials and levers. PMDG has got you covered through an automated system engineer. We'll have a look at that in more detail just now, but basically he can do everything, and all you need to do is steer the plane or tailor make it to the complexity and detail that you require. As the DC6 normally has a crew of 3 or 4 in the cockpit. The DC6 comes with 10 pre-configured views accessible via Control 1 to Control 0. It's a handy feature and will help you find your way around the cockpit with ease. On the captain's left-hand side there's a tablet to help you configure and manage the DC6. Turn it on by pressing the logo. And it's through this interface that we can activate or deactivate the artificial or automatic flight engineer. As in the real world, I would recommend you let the flight engineer do most of the work, especially initially, and then as you grow more confident and familiar with the aircraft, well, you can take things back from him. Under the Ramp Manager tab, you can choose whether you want your aircraft state to be cold and dark, ready for start, or ready for taxi. On the left side of the menu you can choose what paraphernalia and extras you want in prep for your departure, be it a tow bar and tractor, wheel chocks, pitot covers and so on. And on the right hand side you can control your doors and exits. For obvious reasons the DC6A and B are slightly different. If you don't want to turn every dimmer switch, well, PMDG have made it easy to set the internal cockpit lights. Let's take a quick look at the internal cockpit lights, but first I need to turn the ground power on. Press to check ground power unit attached, activate the electrical feed and switch from battery to ground power. Done. Let me now change the time of day. The light options are off, white, red or flood. Flood is all white lights and every other dimmer on. Currently I've got the red lights on. The lighting has been done very well indeed, and appears to me to be very realistic. Why white and red lights? Well, I think it depends on pilot preference. The reason PMDG have allowed for the quick set of lights is the DC6 has light and dimmer switches spread all over the cockpit, both fore and aft. We've now switched to the white light, and it's equally impressive. The Fuel Load Manager tab is fairly self-explanatory. Allows you to set the fuel at either 50 or 100% or anything in between manually. For the DC6A you can set various load cargo weights. For the passenger version you can set number of passengers and weights, etc. I'm just going to add some cargo to the main cargo hold. That's done. Now let's go and have a quick look at the cargo hold itself. The visual representation of the cargo will vary depending on how much you've loaded the aircraft with. Under the Artificial or Automated Flight Engineer there are a number of options available to you. Here you can choose at what stage and what level of support and assistance you require. And as you can see, there's support and assistance for every phase of the flight. Remember, in the real world, one person could not fly this aircraft. It took a crew of at least 3. By enabling these options, the flight engineer and co-pilot start running through the prep and checklists. Let's put on the before start. The sounds on this aircraft seem to have been faithfully reproduced, with each switch and dial having its own unique sound.
Oil coolers and cowl flaps. Auto and position.
Right, we'll leave them to their checks. Let's go and have a look at the Maintenance Manager. And depending on the realism settings that you've set, this is where you'll be able to repair the damage that you've done. Oh, and you're likely to damage an engine, that's for sure. Just one quick note on the previous checklist. You see there's an option for a wet or dry takeoff. This doesn't apply to whether it's raining or not, but rather whether you're injecting water into the engine for additional cooling. The next tab is the Engine Stress Analyzer, and this only really comes alive once you've got the engines up and running. And it's a visual guide to whether you're overloading and overstressing these wide-bore radial engines. Caution here because they do have a reputation of being temperamental. The last tab is the Options tab, and this is where you can set your realism settings, as well as adjust the brightness of the tablet and an option to swap out the GPS Asobo GNS for 30 for the PMDG Bendix radio. As this is a first look video, I'm not going to run through the startup process. but I'll certainly be doing more videos on this aircraft in the future. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but PMDG have started a YouTube channel, PMDG Official. There you'll find detailed tutorials on each and every aspect of this aircraft, depending on the level of detail that you want to dig into. I'll leave links to their YouTube channel in the notes below. But right now what I'm anxious to do, well, I want to get this bird in the sky.
Boost pumps.
Starting my before takeoff checklist as I'm taxiing to the runway, which is just ahead of us.
Fuel selector and crossfeed. Main tanks and crossfeed off. Autopilot and carb heat.
Handbrake off, and a gentle nudge on the throttles to move us forward. You need to allow for a little bit of time for the large bore engines to build up the power and the speed. Is it just me, or do I suspect the automated flight engineer, well, he's from South Africa. And as they say in that part of the world, how's it but? A light hand is required for taxiing this big aircraft.
Windows and turbine.
This is our grass strip runway just here, now turning onto the runway. The automated flight engineer has already set my flaps to 20 degrees.
Extended and on. Before takeoff checks complete.
I love the way these 3D gauges shake, so realistic. Takeoff procedures build the manifold pressure to 30, let it stabilize and then full power. Hold her on the brakes until manifold pressure hits 40, release the brakes and let's go.
Tail flaps set. Full power please. Going full power.
Holding her on the brakes until MP hits 40, which is just about now. Brakes released and we're rolling.
Full power set.
(103 knots) and rotate. When rotating on an older bird such as this, you need to be very gentle, almost let her lift herself off. You need to give her time to gain some safe speed. I'm pitching up about 4 or 5 degrees. Safe height, gear away.
Gear up, lights out.
Time now to retract the flaps. I'll do that in stages and maintain my gentle pitch up until such time as I gain speed. I'm looking for about 160, 165 knots. Then I can stick my nose in the air and get anything between 1,000, 1,500 feet climb. Now adjusting my pitch for the climb. I'm now on final approach to Burning Blue Designs White Waltham. Gear is down and flaps currently at 20. Using my speed to manage my altitude. I need more drag, flaps now coming to full. I found the key to landing this aircraft successfully. Well, it's all about getting the right altitude for your final approach. She can be very difficult to get down quickly, and often, well, that'll get you into trouble. Despite the temptation, keep a little bit of power on the throttles until that very last moment for the final flare. And once again, the flare is very gentle. I floated a little bit more than I expected to, but no problem. I'm very fortunate. I've got a very long grass runway, so no need to put my reversers on. Again, she does tend to shake rather a lot when you apply the reverse thrust, so do that only when you need to. I know I'm on the GA side of White Waltham, but I think I'll just park and unload my cargo here. PMDG have done a great job with this DC6. She feels as you would expect her to. She's heavy on the controls and can at times be quite unforgiving. In terms of performance and frames per second, well, I know I've got a top-end system, but I didn't feel any major impact. But we're safely down and parked. I see I've left my flaps down. Well, back to the tutorials for me. This add-on is currently available for just under $55 US. Is that expensive? Well, not really when you consider you're paying 25 to 30 pounds for a small GA aircraft. And this add-on has the system depth to demand a higher price. What do you think of the PMDG's price? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be doing a follow-up video to this one in the not too distant future, and this time we're going to take the DC6 out for a spin in VR, in both the Reverb Pro and the Pimax 8KX. Looking forward to that. Well, I hope you enjoyed my first look and found it informative and useful. Look after yourselves and take care, and I'll see you next time.